You're watching Women of Strength TV with a purpose-driven woman who has a yearning deep in her soul to serve the world. Presented to you by Ange Wilcock, creator of Evolutionary Model of Well-Being, Mindfulness-Based Storytelling, and the Raw Woman Project, a businesswoman on a mission for every human on the earth to feel enough.
Right, welcome once again to Woman of Strength, the place where as women we're just authentic, we just show up as our real selves, and whatever you see today is the person that we are. And if you saw us tomorrow, we may be different, but it's about being real. So it's about being, you know, that amazing woman that we are in this world and how we've decided to show up. And today I have an amazing guest. As always, all my women, I'm just in awe of the women that I interview, and they come from diverse backgrounds and they've created amazing businesses out of their own life experience. And as I was saying to my guest Christine off air, it's, you know, it's purpose-driven women, because what we do is we experience something in life, we find a solution, and rather than keep it to ourselves, we want to share it to the rest of the world. And Christine will tell her story around that. So welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
Now, I'll tell you a little bit about Christine, and then she's going to continue to tell us about her journey. So Christine Stevens is a certified sleep coach, writer, and mum of a toddler that sleeps like a dream. Every mother would love that. 3 years ago, with a new baby and finding herself alone many nights while her husband traveled on business, she got less and less sleep as the months went by. She was irritable all the time, frustrated that she couldn't get any sleep, and started worrying that she'd lose her job. When her daughter was 8 months old, she'd had enough. She was surviving on 3 hours or less of sleep per night, and she was scared it was going to be like this forever. Around the same time, the company that she worked in for almost 14 years suddenly decided to downsize, and she was laid off. Exhausted, frustrated, and desperately craving sleep, she found a sleep program that worked for her, and within 3 nights, her daughter was sleeping through the night. Based on her experience, she was invited to join other sleep consultants around the world, helping families get the sleep they deserved and needed. She now works with children and adults to help them get the sleep they need for their health and wellness. Welcome, Christine. Wow. So I'm sure you're going to tell us a lot about that, because that sounds like a huge experience. But the first question I ask for all these amazing women that I interview and want to share their story is, could you tell us about your journey into becoming a woman of strength?
Yes. Well, it started out kind of like you gave it in you gave in my bio. It started out, I was a new mom, and everyone goes, oh, this is great. You're getting over the honeymoon period of having this new baby around. And then after a few months, reality starts to set in. And my daughter was not sleeping at night. Even as at about 6 months old, I was still noticing that she was still waking up a lot at night. And I was just kind of curious of why that was happening. But, you know, I had other friends that had babies and thought, well, mine will just start sleeping soon. And, you know, it's another week down the road. It's another 2 weeks down the road. I had lots and lots of advice from friends and family that they were so well-meaning. They were trying to help me. Oh, just try this and just try this. A lot of old wives' tales came in. Oh, you're not doing this right, or you're not doing this right. Yeah. And all of that information to a new mom is very overwhelming. So within a few months, like I said, by the time she was 8 months old, she was still waking up every hour and a half all night long. So by the time that I would get her to sleep, and then I would try to get to sleep myself, because my husband wasn't a lot of help. He was just like, I don't know what to do. Then like I said, I was getting by on like 3, maybe 4 hours of sleep a night. I was working a very, very busy job, working at least 50 hours a week, carrying an on-call cell phone. I was an operations manager. Gosh. And I was just exhausted. And I remember
it makes me feel exhausted just listening to you. Wow.
and And I think one of the big turning points was I remember walking into my boss's office one morning with my coffee because that was the only thing I could survive on. And I walked into her office, and she had a 2-year-old at the time, and I said, "Please don't fire me. I'm doing the best I can, but I don't know what to do. I'm desperate. This baby just won't sleep, and I've never been this exhausted in my life. When does it get better?" She didn't have a lot of information for us. So, okay, well, and I've always been a woman that I would never settle. If someone told me I couldn't do something, I set out to prove them wrong, just for my own gratification, just to say that, well, you don't think a girl can swing a hammer? Watch this. So I started looking around to find a solution, going, there's got to be a better way of doing things, because everybody telling me that, you're a parent, you're going to be tired for the rest of your life. I wasn't going to accept that.
Yeah.
So I started looking around, and I was telling a friend of mine on the phone about all of these issues. And he said, "You've got to try this." And I said, "Okay, what is it?" The program was called Sleep Sense. And I said, I'll do anything. I'll stay on my head for 2 weeks. If that's what will help, I'll do anything.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it worked. Within 3 nights, the baby slept 10 hours on her own.
Wow.
And I woke up that morning, and I still remember it. I will never forget that memory of waking up that morning and going, "Oh, I feel like $1 million. This is great. How in the world did this work so well?" And it was right about the time that I had found out that the company I was working for was downsizing. I was really trying to figure out what I was going to do next, and I was a little lost. And lo and behold, I get an email one day. The woman who created Sleep Sense emails me and says, "You had such a great experience. Would you ever consider teaching?" And I took it as a sign. Call it a sign, call it divine intervention, whatever. I just went, that's it. The light went off. And so I went through a very long training program to learn all about sleep. And I started working, and from there, it's been an amazing journey to help other parents get a good night's rest. Because it's not about getting a good night's rest anymore. It's about helping families be happier. It's about helping. I've had people tell me, you helped save my marriage.
Yeah. Yeah, because sleep deprivation affects everything in our lives, doesn't it? So
right,
yeah.
All facets of our life. I've had mothers tell me that they couldn't go back to work because they were so exhausted, and after working with me, they're able to actually start looking for a job again because they aren't so worried about being tired. And so every time I hear that comment from mom that the baby slept last night, and I hear that joy in their voice, and it takes me back to that morning that I woke up and heard, and looked at the clock and went, "Oh my gosh, the baby slept last night." So I get to go back. So I really enjoy it. And that's why I love doing what I do.
Yeah. I can hear it. I can hear it in your voice and see it in your face. One of the things I wanted to pick up on, because obviously this is your journey into a woman of strength, but also I feel, and what I heard you say is that there's a bigger journey before that, because what I heard you say is when someone said, there is no answer, you're like, well, there must be something different. There must be, because, that's always been my challenge. If someone says I can't do something, then I just go and prove them wrong, just for gratitude for myself, just to say, hey, I can do this. So where did that spirit come from? Because that's, resilience, isn't it? Where did that resilient spirit come from?
That started very, very young.
Yeah.
Probably some of the earliest memories of being told that I couldn't do something was almost elementary school. I remember my grandfather telling me, he thought I should play the trumpet. And I said I wanted to play the flute. And I said, well, why? He says, because I don't want you to do that. I want you to play the trumpet. But but I want to play the flute. And I said, no, I'm not going to do all the time what everybody expects me to do, or to take every piece of advice and said, no, I think I'm going to do that. And then probably, carrying into things like high school. I was on a competition drill team in high school, and I was the only girl. I was the only girl that could be there. And I was the smallest of the group. And we had to memorize formations. We had to memorize movements. We had to do some heavy lifting. And being the only girl, I felt like sometimes I would kind of get pushed back to the side a little bit, like, oh, she can't do this. She can't do this. And I said, no, I am not going to quit. So when it came to the heavy lifting, I got into the gym and started lifting weights to make myself stronger physically. But I think through all of that, I think that really solidified my resilience, that I'm never going to sit back and let somebody tell me I couldn't do something.
Yeah. And what was the motivation behind that? Was it to prove people wrong? Was it to prove to yourself that you could be whatever you wanted to be and do whatever you wanted to do? Like, were you consciously aware of what was driving that?
Some of it was just to prove that I could do it, but to myself and to others. I had a younger brother, and I didn't want him to see me quit.
Yeah.
And my father, I never wanted my father to see me quit, because I didn't want him to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Yes. So having my father in my life has always been, he's always been there to be able to reassure me, to push me through things. And so whether it was something that was going on, whether it was drill team in high school, or getting through a master's degree when some of my courses were a little tougher than others, or, to Dad, this baby won't sleep. Now what do I do? Well, it'll get better. Okay, Dad, thanks.
Yeah. So it sounds like that determination has really sort of, supported you through life. But has there been times when that sheer determination has had a not so positive effect on you?
I would say that, maybe there's been, maybe just a handful of times where sometimes the sheer determination of, well, I'm just going to jump into something. And maybe you don't think about what's going to happen. But in the end, it doesn't matter. It's whether you tried and you failed, or you tried and you succeeded. I've taken everything in life as a learning experience, and I'll take that lesson with me. It happens. Everybody makes mistakes, or whether you look at it as a learning experience, a mistake, whatever. I've used that and to carry me through life.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the way I look at life too. It's like I believe everything happens for a reason, and we need to look at the lessons in it. And if we don't look at the lessons and learn from it, it'll just come up again and again and again, and it'll just get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I always think, let's look for the lessons in this one then, because I don't want it to get bigger than this. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So tell us more about Sleep Sense. So you did the Sleep Sense training. I'm quite intrigued that after 3 nights, your baby that was waking up, every hour and a half, all of a sudden slept after 3 nights. Because I've got 3 grown-up children, and now I've got grandchildren. And I remember the advice giving my children, because it was the advice that I was given when I became a mum, was just to leave them to cry, and then they'll soon self-soothe and they'll go off to sleep. So is that good advice, or is that outdated now?
Well, I would say that that's a little bit more outdated advice, but every parent is different. And for me personally, it was changing some behaviors, pretty much on my part, really.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is working with the entire family, to change the entire family's behavior and views around sleep. But there's a lot of different ways to change a child's sleep, and it really depends on what the individual child's needs are, how old they are, what are their abilities, what do you want your night to look like? So that's why I'm very flexible with parents, because some parents are more comfortable with some things than others. And so I take that all into account when I work with families. There's a lot of times that maybe a certain bedtime won't quite work. Well, let's figure out what will work, so we can balance the needs of the child versus, hey, you get to see your child when you come home from work at night. Balancing things like children that are, in daycare a lot and switching between home, children that are traveling a lot. How do you handle all of those things? Because sleep is something that we as adults are, constantly thinking about. Ooh, I need to get some sleep. I'm really tired. So it's a lot of, we have to think about it. Same thing for our children too.
Yeah. Because I know my grandchildren, I've got 3 little grandchildren in New Zealand and the rest of them are in England. So unfortunately, I don't get to see them. But my little grandchildren in New Zealand, they come to stay and they go to daycare. And so by the time they go full time. So by the time I pick them up at 4:30, by 10 minutes or not even that, probably 2 or 3 minutes in the car, back to home, they're just sound asleep. And then it's like, do I leave them to sleep? Do I not leave them to sleep? And then if I leave them to sleep, when it comes to bedtime, they just don't want to sleep. They're, they're full of energy and running around. And so what I've done, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it seems to work for them, is if they need to sleep, they need to sleep. That's what I've done. I've just left them. It's like, okay, well, you need to sleep right now, and then you'll wake up when you're hungry, and then you'll want to go back to sleep again, because they get one night sleeping with me, so it doesn't disrupt my evening at all with them. But if you've got children, say, of varying ages, because we know that I've got a friend who's got a daughter who's 7 years old and won't go to bed till 9 o'clock and then wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and like she'll wake up once or twice in the night, but she does get 3 or 4 hours. So you work with any age, do you? It's not just babies, it's any age child?
That's correct. I started out working with just children, but I have since expanded all the way to working with adults. So babies 8 weeks on up. I've worked with children of all ages, teenagers, adults. And again, it's just figuring out what the issue is. And if parents usually will come to me when they're so exhausted, they can't remember when they weren't tired.
Yeah.
They're ready to make a change. They're saying that what they're currently doing is not working. Because I meet families all the time that say, oh, my kid sleeps like a dream. I do this, my child goes to sleep and sleeps all night long. Well, if that's what's working for you, then that's fine. And you don't feel like you need to make a change. Yeah. But if you can't remember when you weren't exhausted and tired, you can't remember the last time you got a good night's sleep. You're constantly arguing maybe with your spouse about how to do things. You're constantly worried that, why is this baby not sleeping? Then it's probably time to start looking for some help and saying, what, maybe what we're doing isn't quite working and maybe we need to do something different.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's great that you do, the work with adults too, because as women in business, and I'm sure lots of women listening to this are in business. And one of the things that I certainly find, my personal experience, is that we're constantly coming up with amazing ideas about what we want to do in our business, how we want to move forward, or we're thinking about all the tasks and things that we need to do the next day. And so and then when we're going through stress, we don't necessarily sleep. So for an adult who may be able to go to sleep okay, but keeps waking up and doesn't feel like they've had a good night's sleep, which I'm sure there's lots of business owners out there who will relate to that. What piece of advice could you give them?
Well, a lot of it goes back to consistency. And you want to make sure that go to bed at the same time every night, get up the same time every single morning. A little bit of training your brain that this is what's supposed to happen. We teach children, because kids love consistency and routine just as much as we do. Yeah. Because yes, they will sleep when they need to, but still having a good routine is key. So going to bed at the same time, getting up at the same time every single day will train your brain. This is when we're supposed to go to sleep, and this is when we're supposed to get up. Yeah. The other thing is, you have to be able to relax. You have to be able to train yourself to be able to, when you have those things, like you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, because I know I do sometimes.
Yeah.
When I've got a particularly big project going on, or I have a lot of things going on, a little bit of extra stress in life going on, I will find that I will wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, wide-eyed, doink, and looking around going, oh, great. Now I'm awake. Brain has woken up. Now what do I do? And so working on a little bit of just kind of self-meditation at night. So before I go to bed, I make sure that I really spend just a few minutes, 5 minutes, just to clear my head and just say, okay, things are going to happen. I have a lot of things to do, but I will take care of them tomorrow. And then especially when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll do the same thing, where I will just have a little conversation with myself in my head about, okay, there's a lot of things going on, but right now it's time to sleep. And I need to go back to sleep and get the rest I need, because otherwise I won't be able to take care of the things in the morning that I need to do. So that's helped a lot.
Yeah.
I love things like meditation CDs for adults, to help them decompress, calm down in the evenings, because that's when you really need to start turning off the day, so that your brain says, okay, it is time to go to sleep, have a restful night, and wake up rest in the morning.
Great. Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. And so how can mums or adults that, are struggling with sleep, how can they get in touch with you?
One of two ways. They can go to my website, ChristineStevensSleep.com, or they can find me on my Facebook page as well.
Yeah. And do you work with people all over the world, or?
I do, because I have the ability to work remotely. So I will set it whatever time it is, because, hey, it's great. I can talk to you. I'm in the US, here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And we just work out a time that works best for both of us. So we can meet. You get the same information as you would with me sitting in front of you, but you can sit at home in your pajamas, or you can meet me in your office, wherever. But yes, I work all over the world.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. So is there one little gem that you'd like to leave our listeners and viewers before you leave us today?
I would. And this is going to go to, especially to the moms. I have a new little mini course coming out called the 0 Tears Sleep Solution. Ooh. So if you go over to my website, you can sign up and you can download it. And it's a great start to your child's sleep, no matter what age, that will help. And again, it's the 0 Tears. So it shouldn't involve any kind of protest from baby at all. And I think it's some really great tips for parents to use.
So is there one little gem that you'd like to leave our listeners and viewers before you leave us today?
I would. And this is going to go to, especially to the moms. I have a new little mini course coming out called the 0 Tears Sleep Solution. Ooh. So if you go over to my website, you can sign up and you can download it. And it's a great start to your child's sleep, no matter what age, that will help. And again, it's the 0 Tears. So it shouldn't involve any kind of protest from baby at all. And I think it's some really great tips for parents to use.
Great story. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Remain real, authentic, and whole. Be yourself and continue to follow your dreams. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time on Woman of Strength TV.